Welcome, everybody. Okay, we're going to let our last friends join us here, and I love it. We brought some of the youngest constituents of Mesa tonight as well. Okay, thank you again, everybody. As you know, this is our Orange Sofa Conversation Cafe Talk Salon. It's got a number of different names, but one thing in common is our Orange Sofa. And we brought this back this year to start trying to get more conversations and talks that are inspiring, interesting, and something that we've never heard of, or just to really spark some ideas, TED Talk style here in Eastmark. My name is Matthew Law. I am the president of the Eastmark Assembly, which, if you didn't know, is one of the 3 governing entities here in Eastmark. And it's the entity that is most focused on partnerships, engagement, and these types of events along with the big stuff. Thank you again for coming. I wanted to do a small introduction tonight to introduce Jim Starkey. Jim is going to be our MC and our moderator tonight. He thought he could get away from the Assembly Board, and we said no, and you are the perfect person to help moderate tonight with our guest of honor, Mayor Freeman. He's been on the job for, I think, 6 months now?
Just less than 6.
Just less than 6 months, but he is a true Mesa man, and I will let him tell his bio on his own because he does it so much better than I ever could. Tonight we are going to be hearing from him. We've got some great questions set up so we can understand a little bit about his priorities, his thoughts, his history and background on Mesa. If time allows, we only have about an hour tonight, we will do some Q&A from the audience. You all have a paper and a pen on your chair. This, if you have a question at any point tonight, jot it down on here and just kind of casually raise it up, and Peyton over here will get it over to you. With that, I'm going to remind you that our next Orange Sofa is going to actually be out at AAG, or Arizona Athletic Grounds, at the end of June?
Yes.
Yeah, end of June. So keep your eye out for that. This Saturday is, we already switched it, next Saturday is our hydration kickoff, which is perfect that we have the mayor here because that is a long-standing Mesa initiative, and we have always helped out with that. So please bring some water down. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Jim as we kick off the Orange Sofa.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that introduction. Mayor Freeman, it's truly an honor for me to be here speaking with you tonight, and I certainly welcome you to our community. We're so happy to have you. When I told my wife that we were going to have this discussion, I said, maybe sometime I'll run for mayor. And she said, you can do that, but I wouldn't vote for you. And so there I have my constituency right there. So, her logic was good because she said, in order to be the mayor of a community, you need to have lived in that community. You need to know that community. And your roots run deep. Your fiber has been woven into the fabric of Mesa for generations. So would you tell us about your family legacy, a little bit about yourself and your journey to become mayor of Mesa, Arizona, the 36th largest city in the United States?
Isn't that unbelievable?
It is great.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud to live in Mesa, and historically, my family came here in 1877, so they were pioneering families, and they, on my mother's side, and they founded Mesa in 1878, and then it was incorporated in 1883. So on my mother's side, been here. I'm not that old, 147 years, but I got to know my great-grandmother, who was born on a wagon train coming up above Winslow, Arizona, a little town called Brigham City. She was born there, and they spent 2 weeks there after she was born in December 21st, 1877. And because the snowstorm was so bad, they couldn't migrate down with their horses and wagons to the lower elevation. But I got to know my great-grandmother, and she died when I was about 17 years old. So that legacy lived with me, knowing the pioneering families and what they had to go through to build Mesa. And on my father's side, they went to Snowflake, Arizona, if you know where that is in eastern Arizona, in 1880, and helped kind of stabilize that community. The snows and the flakes were there. And it's not called Freeman Snowflake or anything, but I still own some property up there. But that's kind of where the convergence was, and then coming down here. So I grew up in a farming family in Mesa, Arizona. When I grew up, it was about 30,000 people. and worked hard on the farm. I'm the oldest of 6 boys and 1 girl, my sister. And being the oldest, you kind of get the punishment with dad. You have to do all the work. But the fun things is you got to milk the cows by hand for a number of years, drive tractors when you were younger, and help harvest produce. And we were a cotton, alfalfa, grain growing family. And that's what anchored Mesa, Arizona, was agriculture. So I grew up in agriculture. And when I was about 20 years old, I kind of switched over to construction fields and became a masonry and concrete contractor. And then I got in the fire service and served 31 years as a fire captain, retired as a captain paramedic hazmat technician with Mesa Fire for 31 years. And when you retire, I retired in 2011, you think, well, what are you going to do with your life? And I went back to farming, so I leased some land from family friends and still farm today. In fact, we just opened our farmer's market today up in downtown Mesa at Brown and Center Street. If anybody wants fresh sweet corn, watermelon, this is a plug for the farmer's market. Tomatoes, squash, and everything, so we have that available now. It's all local produce. But why I got involved, you asked the question. We have a really active neighborhood where I live. I'm in North Central Mesa. It's called the Lehigh community, and we always work with our council members and our mayor about, just advocacy, how to keep our neighborhood safe, making sure we're able to live the quality of life we wanted to, keeping the character of our neighborhoods. And so the council member was terming out, and he says, well, Mark, you know everybody in this area, you should run for city council. So that was my little plug for that, and I did, and I ran 2 terms as a council member, and 1 in the primaries, and then decided, well, what's going to motivate me running for mayor? And I just felt like I had more to give. In the fire service, as a public safety person, you just give all the time. And in my career, I responded to over 64,000 calls of service in my career. And so I've handled every human emergency out there, good and bad. And so is the vice mayor here, Scott Summers, is a retired Phoenix fire engineer, medic, hazmat, and ARF guy. ARF is that acronym that.
I've got a few strikes.
Yeah, plus his military career too, so I'm happy that he's here. So I guess being involved like you're doing today in your neighborhoods to keep the character and the things that are essential for your quality of life is what I value. And so, I'm like you, I'm just boots on the ground. Literally, I wear boots and a cowboy hat. I'm easy to find. And I don't sit in my office, and I'm out in the community. So I think that's kind of a good overview. I guess just to finish up, my wife Leanne, we have 3 children. Our oldest son's a major in the U.S. Air Force. He's in PA. So he runs a hospital, keeping our military personnel, flight personnel, for their mental and physical health. Our middle son and his wife are in Atlanta, Georgia. He's a financial expert for Voya Financial Services. So if anybody has Voya Financial, he kind of does that at corporate. Our daughter's a school teacher, and her hubby is a veterinarian over here at Santan Village. So anyway, that's kind of you got me.
That's amazing. That's a great story, and really a rich story, a very rich story, and a rich legacy in Mesa. I went on Facebook, Mayor Freeman, and I saw pictures of you with groups of people riding horses around. Is that something you do?
Well, yes, I love livestock. I grow hay, so I do have some cattle on my property, and I have a horse, and I rescue goats, and I'm kind of a sucker for livestock. And being a farmer, hay farmer, I have a lower cost threshold in feeding my livestock than most people. But what we do is we do an annual community trail ride, and so we commemorate the pioneers coming in at Val Vista and the 202 Red Mountain Freeway. We ride up there and come all the way into what's called the Lehigh area. It's about a 6-mile ride. So people ride, bike, run, mopeds, strollers, mom and strollers. We have carriages hauling people. It's just to commemorate the anniversary of. So Lehigh was formed a year before Mesa, so 1877 for Lehigh, Mesa in 1878. In 1970, the 2, Lehigh was annexed into Mesa.
Okay, very good. Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that existed. We'll move on to budget and fiscal planning.
So we're going to get to the hard stuff right off the bat.
And maybe I can get some understanding, because I don't know what it's like to run a city budget. I imagine it's a little like running a household budget where you have a certain amount, and then as prices rise, you have to make decisions on the quit Netflix or Prime or whatever. And then infrastructure happens, my air conditioning goes out, and I have to either pay for it in cash or find the funds for it. But how's the city budget outlook shaping up for the coming fiscal year? And what's Mesa's long-term fiscal outlook over the next 5 years or so?
So all of that's a valid question. I've been doing this is my 9th year doing our budget. So this year is a little more difficult, but we're well prepared financially, meaning we're going to hopefully approve a $2.79 billion budget this coming next month. So there's obviously liabilities and assets all involved in that. But what has happened, our legislatures have been very thoughtful, and they took away the rental sales income tax. If you have rentals, you usually your renters would pay a sales tax, and you'd pass that on, and the municipalities would get that. Well, that went away this year for the 25-26 year. So we're experiencing a $22 million roughly shortfall on that. And then we have also the flat income tax reduction as well, and that's about an $11 million hit. And then we do what's called benchmarking, public safety personnel. We reach out to all the communities and figure out, well, are we paying our police and firefighters enough? And so it's called benchmarking. And so we do that every 2 years. And we found out that we tried to stay in number 2, number 3 in the valley, but public safety is so competitive that we found out that, well, we're $23 million short. So we add the three together, you're about a $51-52 million deficit. So to compensate for that, the city manager and the council asked to find some reduction areas. And so we asked for a 2% reduction in a lot of different areas. And so that came to be in fruition. And then what we also had to manage is how are we going to leverage that? In other words, we weren't meeting our budget. However, we have a reserve fund. I think our reserve fund is about $260 million of reserve fund. So we're drawing down our reserve fund about $50 million to compensate for the loss of income. And then the forecast over the next 5 years is we're going to meet the two. So our income stream basically is going to meet in 5 years. But we're hoping to do it sooner, maybe 3.5 to 4 years. But the good thing about this is every 6 months we look at our budget and we know our forecast. We know our investment portfolios. We know everything that we're doing as a city. One of the great things we have in the city, for $2,200 a year, you have access. That's what you pay to the city for your general obligation bonds, your police and fire, all the many things that we have in the city available for each one of us. $2,200 a year. We're third from the lowest in there. So if you rate 10 of us, we're number 7 on that scale. There's a couple of communities less than that. But you got to remember, Mesa is 520,000 population. We're 140 square miles. In fact, from my farm I left this afternoon to out here is 21 miles. Right. And I go, wow, 21 miles. And you're only 2/3 of the way through Mesa. And we still have that way to go and some more, south of the 24. So financially, Mesa is well off. We're going to draw down our reserve for the next couple of years and meet our financial obligations. And this year we're looking at so the general obligation bonds, that's building our fire stations, our parks, our libraries, all the things, our quality of life. But we're looking at that will be an $8 increase per household to $160. And those are voter approved bonds. Those are things that we issue and we continue to issue. We're going to build 2 brand new fire stations. We're redoing our police headquarters in downtown Mesa to the tune of about $63 million. We're going to build a fire station down here at 80th Street in Elliott, and then another one at Lindsay and McDowell area, north central somewhat Mesa. We're just going to open our brand new public safety facility at Power Road in McClellan. That's a combined police and fire facility with a community room. And as you know, a year and a half ago, we opened up Station 221 here with the first electric fire truck really on the West Coast. I think LA beat us and Florida beat us over here, but there was some just equipment and things. But you have the state-of-the-art fire truck. You'll never know it comes if it doesn't turn on the siren. So, and the crews really like that.
Yeah.
It's very expensive. It costs twice as much as a regular fire apparatus.
In terms of the deficit, we have a lot of economic development. Is that going to help fill up the reserves that have been, depleted to go to the deficit over time? Will economic development help that, or does it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, when we talked about our general obligation bond debt payment, we found that I think it was 44% of the debt service is by new development. And then the other 56% is the rest of us that live here.
Right.
So, and we expect that to still continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with our commercial, industrial, and residential growth.
Fantastic.
So it should be leveraged out. I brought some notes in case I get stuck on questions, but one thing I want to, so we've heard of DOGE, right, in the administration. So we have a similar asset in the city. It's called the OMB, Office of Management and Budget. They look at each department, each programming to make sure they're being programmed correctly, and if for any reason is that not a sustainable program, they're eliminated. So we're doing things today all throughout the year, and that's the Office of Management and Budget. So that continues to monitor our financial output. That's why when we go out and sell our bonds, municipal bonds, we're an AA plus, and because the investors know we have a strong financial portfolio, we have a great reserve fund, we pay our amortization schedules for all our liabilities, just like you would in your households.
Right.
And we only have 3 funding mechanisms. Number one, we have state shared revenue, sales tax, and then we transfer some of our utility funds over to the general fund. So Mesa, I like to say, is a full service city. I hope I'm okay to keep talking. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We provide your water, wastewater, natural gas if you have it, recycling, and we have a small electric company downtown called the City of Mesa Electric Company. It's a 5.5 mile geographical area, 18,000 customers. We have 90,000 customers on natural gas. So we take a portion of that money, and each utility is run as a separate business. They have to meet their utility revenue, to pay their bonds, to pay their labor, to pay for their materials. And to your point, all those costs have gone up quite significantly. And so once all those metrics are met, then we transfer some excess monies into the general fund, but keeping each business with a reserve fund for significant purchases during the year.
Right. Something
may happen, and so we have to allocate monies for that. So we're very financially structured well.
That's fantastic. And as a resident, I mean, it's really good to hear. I'm from the Midwest. I grew up outside of Detroit. I came from Chicago, but I grew up outside of Detroit. And I know when a city has economic problems like Detroit did, it's devastating to everyone. And it's so encouraging to hear that we're definitely on the right track.
Well, I just want to add, we have a $1.6 billion investment portfolio right now in the city. And that ebbs and flows based on what goes on, but I'm just telling you, in fact, we talked about today as council about our portfolio and investment and how we're investing our money. So, we're doing just like you're doing. And we're a very frugal, ran organization. I think in 1947, the city council did away with a primary property tax. And so then they said, well, we're going to substitute the utility fund transfer into the general fund and not have a primary property tax for all of us. And then, as you know, Mesa does not have a tax on food in your grocery store. But if you shop in Gilbert, you might have to pay that.
You don't shop in Gilbert.
And you're getting a Sprouts, I hear, out here.
That's fantastic. So it is kind of like running a household budget.
Absolutely.
It's on a grander scale. That's amazing. So development and growth. You know, all our community needs to do is drive up and down Ellsworth, you know, across east and west on Elliott and Warner Road. And we see new projects in construction. And I'm sure there's similar activities going on. I think about the Fiesta Mall. So what are the new developments and major projects that are on the horizon for the city of Mesa as a whole, and then for our District 6 specifically?
Yeah, so you got my brain going all the different parts of Mesa. You're always like, so let's just go with Fiesta Mall.
Okay.
So we did some specialized zoning for Fiesta Mall to move forward. So they're moving forward with their future developments, and right now it's tied up with a potential large developer. And I don't know what that means, but that's what Mr. Garcia, if you've heard of Ernie Garcia, he's the wealthiest person in Arizona, #1, so he owns Fiesta Mall site. And so they're looking at maybe selling that. So that's going on there. I think as far as when you come east, you know, things that resonate to me, that there is a lot of, so Mesa, Gateway Airport, anybody fly out on Allegiant out of here? You like Allegiant, close by? So I'm going to jump over to Gateway. Gateway
Sure.
Airport is owned by Airport Authority. There are 5 owners. Mesa is the largest shareholder of the Mesa Gateway. Then you have Queen Creek, Apache Junction, the Gila River Indian Community, and Gilbert. So everybody has a portion of the airport. Mesa is the largest one, and we own a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the land still there. So the development on the west side of the airport is called Skybridge. Skybridge has 250,000 square foot manufacturing facilities ready to go with power to them. So they're lobbying some of the other large manufacturing people on the west side, and they still have about another 320 acres to develop off of Sossaman. So on the west side of the airport, where you go to catch Allegiant, and to the south, all that's going to be developed. We have on the east side, and the Vice Mayor has a lot more information on that. I could let him speak to it as well. Zenergy off of Ellsworth here, and entrance to, is it, what's the road going into Zenergy and Gulfstream? Williamsville. So Zenergy is a high efficiency air conditioning manufacturer for data centers, for hospitals, and specialized equipment. And they're up and running today. Gulfstream just opened up. It's a $135 million facility, and they're going to create a new paint booth as well as an additional maintenance facility as well. So they're doing that. So you have Gulfstream, Embraer, a lot of your large aircraft suppliers here, as well as operation and maintenance. So Gateway is moving really strong. And as far as I think the Vice Mayor said, Sprouts is coming over here on is it Ray Road here? Ray and Ellsworth. So that'll be a nice addition to this area.
That would be a great addition, especially to get that anchor store, so to speak, to start pulling in other restaurants or commerce sites that would benefit the community. I was talking to Scott earlier about it would be so great to just walk to another nice restaurant. You know, Steadfast is great, but just start some variety. Locally.
Yeah, and I know this is a very walkable community. How many ride your golf carts around or things like that? You know, I'm sure that happens. Point 22 owner is a personal friend, so Robert Webb over there, he has Point 22, and I think he has the other one over here too.
Exactly.
So he does that. One thing I want to mention is at Gateway Airport, Virgin Galactic is going to build their next gen of called the Delta spaceship. And so they'll take 6 passengers into space, low altitude space, and they're going to build this spacecraft here, and then the mothership will fly from Las Cruces, Mexico, pick it up, and take it back to launch in Mexico, Las Cruces. But for only $600,000 a person, you can ride in this aircraft. Yeah, one time.
Wow.
I thought it'd be, a couple different times. But no, Mayor Freeman, only one time.
It would be hard to rack up points on there.
Yeah, credit card like that. But I think just looking on the east side is the Boyer Gateway East site. So that's going to be a high-level industrial, commercial. I don't know, is there any industrial, all commercial, and a little bit of industrial Boyers?
Their current development is the retail and hospitality.
So they're building a new hotel there that is a Spring Hill Suites, something like that. So that's going to, I think we just, the restaurant, we just approved that one.
Well, we didn't, they approved it. You approved it
On the authority, yeah. So the airport authority, because that's part of the airport governing board.
Right.
So the 5 mayors sit on the governing authority board.
Well, as transplants from Chicago, we realize how important hotels are for guests because, you tend to want to stay at the house for several weeks. So more hotels would be wonderful. So as we move on to leadership and strategic direction, there's the Elevate Mesa strategic focus. And next week we'll have a new city manager, Scott Butler. Can you share some insights about the importance of the city manager's role and some insights about Scott Butler's background and priorities?
Yeah, of course. And at one of your meetings, you should invite him to come out too. He'll be a great asset. So Mr. Butler brings 21 years of experience working for the city of Mesa. So he worked in our government liaison lobbying group with the city, and then he became a deputy city manager and as the assistant city manager. So he has a lot of strategic wealth behind him and foundational knowledge. And recently he was appointed to work with public safety was one of his skill sets, and to work, working with our public safety and keeping our neighborhoods safe was one of his priorities. As the assistant city manager, he brings a good, strong strategic vision to Mesa. And as a council, we looked at, well, we could go outside and hire somebody outside, but having worked for the city for a number of years, I feel like when we have great internal candidates at Nowhere City, it just strengthens our foundation and keeps us strong. And there was no pushback. I mean, everybody, well, Mr. Butler, he's a perfect choice. Mm-hmm. And so he brings a lot of that. He brings a full range of background, and he's well resourced in knowing Mesa and what we need. And so we're excited to have him as our new city manager starting, I think, Sunday.
That's right.
I think June 1st is Sunday, isn't it?
That's
I told Mr. Brady out the door today, so you're still city manager until Saturday night at 12:01.
So you're going to call him at 11:58.
Chris, how's it going? And he'll say, I'll defer to Mr. Butler.
I wanted to speaking of that, because I watched the state of the city 2 times. I mean, it's really a great piece that should be seen by all residents of our community. It's not very long. It's about 39 minutes long. And it's extremely informative. And I learned so much. And of course, I got to meet Mr. Scott Butler on video at that event. But when you establish and maintain a team that works so well together, you can accomplish anything. And I really saw that in the video. The captains of our district and the employees in the city, you really got a heart for how well you work together. So what do you recognize as some of the biggest challenges that the city, that group will face over the next few years?
One thing I think that as you as residents of Mesa understand that your city council, we listen to our residents in our community and try to make pragmatic choices. We try to balance the load out of what's happening in our community. I believe the character of our neighborhoods and our city is essential to our quality of life, and especially our public safety. One of the things that we're going to grapple with, not so much out this way, but probably to the west of you and all the way to West Mesa, Tempe border, is infill development, infrastructure. Remember, this is all new infrastructure. I mean, 20 years old, basically, Eastmark, somewhere in there, cadence and stuff. 12.
12 years.
And look where you've gone in 12 years. I mean, it's phenomenal. But then you look at parts of Mesa that are 146 years old. And so we have to tailor all of our strategic, resources to different parts of the city, because you're still growing out here. And I think the other part is balancing the growth and infrastructure in our community. The other thing I want is, our budget, maintaining a quality budget so that we can have a great quality of life in our community. I think we all value our public safety personnel, but it's more than that. I mean, we have people on our streets doing our street work. How's your streets out here? Anybody getting torn up streets anywhere? Should I ask that question? Like fiber optics or anything? You talk to the vice mayor about it. He's the guy. He used to fix it out here. But I think infill development's a big thing, and balancing everything. And water is as a farmer, I do actively farm, and I buy hundreds of acre feet of water from my farms. But I know how important it is water conservation, water security, and that helps meet the growth and demands of our community. We're actually doing the Signal Butte water treatment plant up here off of, is it Elliott or Broad? Converting it from 24 million gallons per day to 48 million gallons per day to be ready for the future. And that's an expensive, we have all the great infrastructure there, but it's buying the pumps and the equipment, putting in the reservoir and doing all the components to take it to the next level. And I think it's still about 1.5 years away in completing the construction part of it. But that's to meet the demands of this area and growing. Is we're looking ahead and forecasting, and that's what our utility bonds pay for, is this infrastructure and development. And so I'd like to thank you for, approving the bonds, because we are very, financially prudent on these monies. And the one thing people don't understand, and we like to pay for, instead of selling bonds before you need them, the city will finance some of these projects ahead of time and get the cash going and get them going. And then we figure out, okay, we need to repay this money. So then we sell the bonds instead of selling the bonds ahead of time, incurring the interest. And so that's what that $1.6 billion does. It helps us finance some of these projects ahead of time. Then we go out and sell the bonds, pay ourselves back. So that's what we do on the budget. And, we get a few monies from the feds and from our state government, but not much.
Interesting. The water, it's funny, coming from Chicago and Michigan, I'm working with a gentleman who lives in Chicago, and we had been out of touch for a while, and he said, "Oh, you moved to Arizona, why'd you move? There's no water down there, it's gonna dry up." And I'm staying by Lake Michigan, I'm 3 miles from Lake Michigan. When I saw that video and saw how the plan for the water is something you take very, very serious. I mean, it was just so encouraging. I wish I could give him this segment of that video and say, "Here, watch this and let's talk about something else." Because water clearly is on your agenda to preserve for generations to come.
Yeah, so water in fact, I did an interview earlier today. I think I'm going to be on ABC 15. They're going to do a water segment. And so I challenged our California neighbor. I don't know how many from California here, but California claims they do really well with their water. But Mesa has been, Arizona and Mesa has been very, had a lot of foresight and forecast of working with Salt River Project, and getting waters to Roosevelt Dam, Apache Canyon, and Saguaro Lakes, and then diverting that water throughout the cities. And then the Central Arizona Project bringing water from the Colorado River. That's a 140-mile canal from the Colorado River all the way over, and I forget how many billions of dollars it costs, but it costs almost $14 million a month to pump the water from the Colorado River all the way down to Tucson. So it's an expensive expense, and that's why some of the water we have is twice as, actually 3 times, maybe 4 times more expensive than Salt River Project water. So we cannot use Salt River Project water, I'll use the word off project. So think of a geographical area, that Salt River Project water has to remain in a geographical area, a portion of that water. But then if we get new water, then that's available to go all throughout Mesa. So we're able to diffuse some of our water costs by keeping them lower. And in fact, we're building a $210 million pipeline to transfer our affluent water. So we're taking our wastewater and selling it to the Gila River Indian community. And we're giving their priority water in return. So we're giving them our affluent for agricultural purposes. And we get their priority water off out of the Central Arizona project, about 12,000 acre feet, because we're going to be cut, I think the 26, 27 year, about 10,000 acre feet allotment that Mesa will not get that priority water, or get water from the CAP, but we'll get it now from the Indian community. So we're always looking ahead with that. I hope that answered your quick. We talked about water. That's just a fluid process, you know.
Yeah, but it's almost like a financial budget. You gotta, in order to sustain, you have to maintain it.
Well, and here's an interesting thing. The $210 million project I talked, that's a bond, we're bonded and paying that out of bonds. But if we were able to, we'll be able to pay off just the water differential in 7 years because of the cost of water from CAP to Salt River Project. And so just making that conversion, we'll be able to save that much money in 7 years in costs and trade. So, because we're going to buy the Indian water, the leak to the Gila River Indian community at a lower price point.
Interesting. Wow. Again, it's really good to know. And I'm going to call my friend in Northbrook, Illinois.
Yeah, don't be worried about water out here. You're well, and we're drilling more wells here to augment it. So I call them different buckets of water.
Right. So let's see. Infrastructure and transportation. In terms of this is like a personal question, if I may. Are there any plans for the city of Mesa to build a high-speed rail from my house to my office in South Beach?
Probably not. I mean, we've got it as far as Main Street and Gilbert Road.
Okay.
That's called the light rail.
Well, the light rail, I'll tell you, the light rail is a beautiful thing too. And what's being done there, the downtown Mesa area is beautiful. You know, it's really up and coming, and not that there was anything wrong with it, but it's just improving, like many regions in this.
Does anybody go downtown for anything here? I mean, the lights failing. I saw a hand in the back, yeah.
Yeah, the farm park.
Oh, the Neon Gardens, yeah. You come to my farmer's market, I'm sorry, downtown, and you can come to downtown, but just a caveat, the light rail, we write a check of about $17.5 million for the operation of the light rail annually. And our return, the ROI on it is probably about a little less than $4 million. So it's an underperforming asset that has brought more activity to the downtown area, but it has not reached its full potential. I've always said it's an underperforming asset. People would like to rip it out and just put streets back in like it was in the old days, but that's not going to happen. You know, the federal government was really great about building it for us for $1 billion roughly, and now we get to maintain it, you know, for about 17.5, and it goes up every year a little bit. But that's what happens. The ridership is not as high as I would like. I ride it quite often. So, but downtown Mesa is thriving. It's growing. We have a lot of restaurants, and if you like Gus's Fried Chicken downtown and spicy chicken, come to Gus's Fried Chicken.
Very good. Let's see. Do you have any updates about any current or upcoming road construction in East Mesa? You know, especially those that would impact Eastmark. I know the Warren Road's been under construction for quite some time. But are there other things? Seems like our area is getting complete now, so it won't be much of an issue.
Yeah, there's a couple when I made some notes. The Vice Mayor can chime in. But realign Ray Road to not offset at Ellsworth Road to help with that east-west traffic, so that's gonna happen. That project's supposed to go to city council in June of next month for approval. And then project will start at the west and towards Hawes Road and move towards Ellsworth Road. As a mayor, you get to participate on Maricopa Association of Governments Board, so I'm on the Transportation Board, and we're authorizing extension of the State Route 24 up here to go out further and put some guardrails on that, so that's in the queue. So it's interesting when you think about, well, I live in the East Valley, well, the West Valley is still competing for those dollars, so there's some Prop $400 still available, and then Proposition 479 was approved, so those dollars are playing back and forth.
Okay.
So there's about $900 million that we're getting out for road construction, but that's one area. Maybe, let's see, Elliott to Signal Butte. There's a note here, westbound Elliott travel lanes are restricted at Elliott and Signal Butte. All left turn lanes are open. This project is for installation of a new sewer line related to the Signal Butte water treatment plant, which I talked about. So we're going to have that happen, and all that work is supposed to be completed by August. Chrisman Road dead ends at Power Line and Guad and Elliott. It's going to 2020. Okay, so it's going to be part of the 2020 transportation bond. So that's going to be coming soon to connect the two together.
Okay.
Design starts
Design
this
it.
fiscal year, this Congress.
Yeah. So everything has a process. The design process for roads and transportation takes a long time. But we're very cognizant of how important transportation is in our community. I'd like to ask, how many drive electric cars out here? Anybody drive electrics? 1, 2. Okay. I thought there might be more hands. I'm just asking the question because I don't.
Yeah.
There's gotta be more, this is testing town. They're everywhere.
Waymo is building a new manufacturing facility. They have one out here. I think it's a 275,000 square foot to build the next generation of Waymo vehicles to transport more people in kind of a van type vehicle.
Wow.
And then there's hundreds of cars over here on the west side of the airport. You'd think they were solar panels. We're up in the tower, the aircraft tower, and you see those shiny things over there? I said, yeah, solar panels. No, those are cars, Waymos, waiting to be put out.
Wow.
And then they're building more here in Mesa, Arizona.
Wow. But where I work, it's kind of Waymo Central, and you see them all over. And the first time you see one, you're like, I can't believe it. But then now I see them every day, several times a day, and it's quite a thing.
Has anybody ridden in Waymos?
Really nice.
You like?
Especially when you can see the dog that the car sees and you're
Do you feel comfortable riding there?
perfect.
Okay. Is anybody going to ride in a Waymo? I think they're far west as in Mesa, maybe to Mesa Drive. So that's as far west as they've come. And they may not be quite to Mesa Drive, but anything I know west of Mesa Drive, and Mesa and Tempe and Chandler and Phoenix, they're all over.
Yeah. Right. When we have out-of-towners come to the office, they always want to take one. It's kind of an novelty.
It's an experience.
But, wow, very good. So as far as economic development, clearly you're doing a fantastic job. Mesa's been recognized for its strong sense of community, rich heritage, and commitment to innovation. So what strategies is the city using to attract and retain these businesses? Because like I said, you're doing a fantastic job. People want to come to our community and do business, large and small.
Well, I think it goes to our neighborhoods, our quality of life. We have the infrastructure, we have the water, we have the workforce. We are now working with our community colleges, our high schools, in developing career workforce for young people, for your juniors and seniors, and even younger. They're starting and tailoring the career programming, mentorships, and The mayor's has a school roundtable where we invite the school superintendents for Queen Creek, Higley, Mesa to participate in, as well as some of the charter schools to help, and EVIT, East Valley Institute of Technology, to help develop career paths for young people to understand they can stay right here in our community. Now we have to have affordable housing. I know that's why they live with mom and dad till they're 35 years old, but you know, hopefully less than that. But we want to develop people to stay here in our community. Now, for the smaller person, we have what's called a small business builder in downtown Mesa. So we converted one of our old libraries into a functioning, if you're a small business starting out, you need office space and mentorship and help. You can schedule time, you can go down there, and it's free. There's podcast rooms, there's a green room, there's cubicles, there's conference space, and this is one thing that we are using with the American Rescue Plan Act dollars, is funding this project. And I think this year is about 150 people so far.
Yeah, those cheers.
I don't know what happened.
That's my son.
Okay. But anyway, we want to retain small businesses, and our economic development team is doing very well. And so they reached out. We got some updates today. So economically, Mesa is looking very well.
That's fantastic. That's really, really good. You know, I want to be sensitive to your time. We've got about 10 minutes left. We discussed the airport and projects in our arena. Let's talk about public safety and community service for a minute, because this is really important for the residents of our community. Now, you mentioned the police and fire substation on Powell Road. Now, I saw that in the State of the City video. Can you tell us the value of that? Because that is a value to our community, even as far as out here in Mesa or in Eastmark.
Eastmark. So you have a police substation at Mesa Gateway Airport, a smaller one there, and they specifically patrol that area. But what's going to happen is Superstition District is over at Ellsworth and south of the 60 there, between Guadalupe and the 60, or baseline and Guadalupe. And so what we're doing is we're taking the resources from all the different substations and taking personnel and placing them up at the Power Road facility. And that will allow a faster response time for our police and fire personnel. Because right now, think if you're a police officer and you're working a beat in North Mesa or out here, you're living in your car basically, or your Tahoe. And so now they have a place where they can go to do their report writing, even though we encourage officers to be out in the community, be where they can be seen. But the Mesa, the Power Road facility will also have an intake area for people that are arrested, and the patrol officer needs to take them and put them into an intake area. So we'll have a holding area for that temporarily. As with Station 221 here, there'll be a community room down there, so you can host community events there. And I encourage you, you have a really nice community room down here at the firehouse, but you have one here as well. But there's options for you to have and host things at the fire stations. That's what we want to do, is put community rooms in our fire station, our police stations, so people feel comfortable to come in and ask questions there. And so again, it will have our street crimes bureau, our investigative units, domestic violence as well. So we have different divisions in there as well. So it's going to be a full service facility. So different police officers, and the one thing we do very well in Mesa is if we know we're going to build a fire station, we hire the crew a year ahead. So they're in service working in our most busy areas in our community. And when we open that station, fire station 222, that crew will come right in. They'll be seamless. They're already good to go. They'll start providing services in. And then the police officers will come on the police side as well.
That's amazing. And that lends back to the fabric of the city of Mesa being, kind of flows through you, because you've had all that experience with your career here, and you can implement even better solutions to challenges that we face. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So our resident club, the Eastmark Safe Streets, they're working with the Mesa Police Department regarding concerns about safe driving in our community schools. So we'll kind of wrap it up here in terms of public safety initiatives regarding this topic and maybe things that are going on in the Eastmark community.
Vice Mayor could weigh in on this, but one thing we value is we have found in studies that most of the people who speed live in the community, you know, and that's where it goes, and people go, well, I need speed humps, or I need driver feedback signs, or I need more officers, you know, shooting radar and writing tickets, and all that's great. I mean, but we did that in our community, and some of the people that were complaining the most about speeding got the first tickets. Okay, search your right, Larry. So what I'm saying is advocacy in your neighborhoods, being smart. All of you have your HOAs, you could reach out and send things out, but you have a great advocate in your Vice Mayor, Scott Summers. You know, we value, you know, we have red light speeding cameras in the city of Mesa. And I was against those in the beginning because I felt like, well, that's an intrusion on my personal thing, you know. But then you start thinking about, I'm speeding, I'm busting through a red light, I could, being a firefighter, I could cause an accident, I could harm somebody really bad. And so consequently, people get a speeding ticket. So we say, thank you. We're going to take that money, and we have a expenditure item for safe things in the city. So if you need speed humps, if you need driver feedback signs, if a school zone needs some additional helps, we have monies there thanks to the people who run red lights. And we get those monies and we help disperse them out, and we do safety and measures like that. So, you know, we had some group last council meeting that were vocal against speed cameras, red light cameras. And I wanted to say thank you for doing that, but I restrained myself. But anyway, we're very, just your advocacy out here with your council and council member, and it really helps to help have a safe neighborhood.
Well, we appreciate what the city of Mesa does for us here in Eastmark. I have one last question, and I'd kind of like to end it where we began. Your family's rich history goes back generations, and yet many of us in this room may be new to the area. But in your view, what does it truly mean to be a resident of Mesa, Arizona? And for those of us who are new, how can we contribute to the unique fabric of this wonderful community?
In my opinion, regardless of where you live in this city, you need to be engaged in your community. You need to be like yourselves. Learn about your city. Learn about your elected leaders. Learn about what the legislature is doing to your municipalities, because you need to weigh in, because some of the things they're doing in our municipalities for accessory dwelling units, for example, ADUs, to allow casitas and ADUs to go in certain areas of our community. It removes local control from us. I mean, your mayor and council looks at zonings. We look at architecture. We have boards and committees. And so one of the things that we value is community input. And if any of you want to serve on a board and committee, look at mesaaz.gov. Go to, again, boards and committees, find out what appeals to you, fill out an application, have the vice mayor refer it to the mayor's office. We do the appointments, and be involved. And that's what it takes. You know, people like, you know, we all like, I don't really want to use the word complain, but come with a solution.
Right.
That's what I value.
Exactly.
And so we're problem solvers in the city, and that's just being engaged. So again, you know, for $2,200 a year, you get full service in our community, and police, fire, libraries, parks, everything. And Eastmark's a little different animal. I mean, you have your CFD, your financial district out here. You pay a little bit more, but that gauges you to have a higher quality of life out here for your planned community.
Right. Very good. Well, do you remember when this was the GM Proving Grounds?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you do.
I'm a rodeo chairman, imagine that, out in my community. So we have an annual rodeo up in our little area. We have for probably 70-something years. But anyway, I come out here for the Dobsons and get the cattle and the flakes off the ground here. Because if you ran cattle out here, you got an agricultural tax exemption. And so instead of paying a higher tax on land tax, it was
Right.
much lower. And so if you ran cattle on this ground, so been out here and chasing coyotes and things like that. You have any coyotes out here? Javelina? Any other?
Mayor Freeman, I cannot tell you what a pleasure it is to talk to you, what an honor it is to have you visit our community and spend this time with us. We're really grateful that you took the time, and it was so informative. MesaAZ.gov, and also look at the State of the City from May 6th on YouTube. Watch it once, watch it twice, watch it 3 times. You won't be bored. It's very informative.
Well, that was my first one. And let me end with this. If any of you have the Mesa Now app, put the Mesa Now app on your phone, because you can take a picture, geolocates it, send it to the respective department, and within 24 to 48 hours, graffiti, potholes, streetlights not working, intersection issues, anything like, I mean, you could go down the list if you want to find out your utility bills, things like that. That's available on Mesa Now app. And then we're putting in smart meters, water meters and gas meters on all of your homes for better water conservation. And we're changing all your street lights, you'll probably hear, to LEDs.
Well, not to drag this on, Mayor, but the drone capabilities that we have within the city of Mesa are amazing. The technology is beyond state of the art. It's incredible. And of course, you'll see that in the State of the City video.
Actually, we do have, on the top of City Hall, we now have a drone there that responds to police calls. And that shows, I mean, and we were out in the parking lot, go, what's that sound? And there's a drone, take it off again, back and forth. So they respond to all types of police calls within their radius. And it's very great, I mean, for first responders. That drone is there, and it camera feeds on there, and it helps your police and fire personnel with identifying, it could be somebody or something, or whatever the incident is.
Even the firefighters can use it to get to the roof, or get a roof view quickly to see. I mean, who's know more about that than me, but again, as shown in the videos, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so when we were dispatched to a fire call for an incident, the fire department has their own drones. So that drone goes up and it's got infrared on it so it can find the hot spots and direct water application. And police have them as well. And so some of the patrol units, we have, I don't know how many drones throughout our squads, but there are probably a half a dozen or more drones out there. So if there's a lost person or a fugitive or whatever the incident is, they'll fly that drone up and watch out. Hope they're not looking for you, Jim.
If they are, I'll be on my high-speed rail.
Okay. That's your moped.
Mayor, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Just a couple things before we leave. One, I want to say thank you to Peyton for putting all this together, this and all the other Orange Sofa. Thank you, Jim, for hosting us, Mayor Freeman for being here, Katie for setting all this up with the mayor's office. Next Orange Sofa, like was mentioned, end of next month at Arizona Athletic Grounds. We'll hear they've had a lot going on and under new ownership, and would love to share more of the vision. So we're putting it on the back of the truck and moving it over there. We'll be there. And then not tomorrow, but next Friday is the last concert of the year, first Friday concert. So I would love to see you all out there. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.